Dear Jess, so I'm finally coming to you in regular form on a regular camera. I could go on talking about my extremely high electricity bills or the fact that I've still got homework to do tonight. But I'm not going to. What I do want to focus on is the fact that finals are finally over and I'm finally rested from all of it and I feel great. And that this semester is going to be full of awesome classes and awesome things that are happening, and I'm just super excited for everything that's going on. I'm just focusing on the positives. Positive news, I've started learning Irish. I only know how to say a total of like 3 or 4 things in the language so far, but I'm learning. Also, interesting news, I got to be in another one of Mel's videos, so I will put the link down in the description. It has been posted, and I warn you, wear headphones and turn the volume down very low because I sang in it, and we all know how that turns out. So, yeah. Don't say I didn't warn you. What I want to talk to you today is about something that's actually been on my mind for a very long time, pretty much since I accepted my application at Trinity. There's actually a chalkboard next to my bed that I've had this written up on for months now, so I think I just need to get it off my mind. What I want to talk to you today about is why we study dead subjects. Now, when I say dead subjects, I don't actually mean like corpses or mortification. When I say dead subjects, what I mean is that these are things that we study that don't have new material added to them every day. For instance, like what I'm studying right now, medieval manuscripts and medieval history. That's something that the knowledge of it is not evolving every day. So what I want to look at is why dead subjects are worth studying. And I've made a list for you because you know how much I love lists. First thing, you need to study dead subjects because the loss of knowledge of these subjects is simply heartbreaking. If we don't have people to take this knowledge into themselves, process it, and then teach it to the next generation, we're losing that knowledge. And there's a certain human factor that you need with knowledge of all sorts that just can't be captured in books or any sort of written material. Now that might be changing with things like this, like vlogs and videos, and people teaching things through visual media. But the fact still remains that the human factor is needed when teaching anything. And we need that in every subject, no matter what, history especially. Number two, to go along with that, the loss of knowledge is simply heartbreaking. Whenever we forget what a language sounds like, or when we forget why something is written, in my mind, that's horrifying and simply devastating. Whenever I think of this, I think of the last scene of Fahrenheit 451, where the main character comes upon several other characters who claim to be different books of the Bible and different pieces of classical literature because they've taken it upon themselves to learn every single piece of that literature so that it won't be lost. Number three, I think that when you study dead languages, things that you need to take into yourself, process, and then output something in order to fully understand it, that you're changing your own understanding of the world. You study a piece of literature that was created hundreds of years ago, what you're doing is you're taking that knowledge into yourself and then you're trying to put yourself into the shoes of the person who wrote it. What were they thinking? What factors were acting upon their life? So what that does is it forces you to think outside of your own understanding. In order to fully understand this sort of study, you need to become someone else. And honestly, that in itself can be a help to the world sometimes. Being able to understand what someone else is going through without actually having to go through that. So when you study a dead subject, not only are you taking all this information into you and you're processing it, but you're also bettering yourself by being able to understand what someone else went through when they created this thing that you're studying. And then fourthly and finally, this hair is driving me crazy. Sometimes I think I just want to rip it all out, and then I remember that I'm trying to grow it out for charity, so it's fine. So fourthly and finally in this list of reasons why to study dead subjects, I just want to point out that I think there's something fundamentally wrong with the question, why study dead subjects? Because when you ask, why study dead subjects, or why study medieval literature, or why study history of any sort, I think the question is asking for some sort of material gain. What can you give me if you go and study this thing? What can you possibly bring back to the table? And the answer isn't materialistic. The answer is a greater sense of personality, it's a greater sense of history, it's being able to understand something that's outside of yourself. And when we are able to accept that, I think the world can become a much better place. Anytime I think about this, I think how Benjamin Franklin said, and I'm paraphrasing here, I don't know the exact quote: first generation works and labors in the fields so that the next generation can become lawyers and doctors, so that the next generation can become poets and artists and philosophers. And I think when we build upon each other like this, then we're more destined for a more well-rounded world and people who can think outside of themselves. Now that I finally verbalized these thoughts, hopefully I'll have more ability to think them through, actually, and I'll be able to come up with better answers later. Or maybe just build upon what I've already said. I don't know. We'll find out later. We always do, right? Alright, girl, talk to you later. Best wishes!